Welcome to Stream Tips, episode number 4. In this video, we're going to cover a quick and easy way to make a unique animated background. Let's get right into it. One of the questions I've been asked a lot recently is, how did you make your animated background that you use in both your YouTube videos and on your stream? So I'd like to share the exact steps that I followed, and by the end of this video, you should be able to make your own without any problems at all. For this guide, you're going to need beginner level knowledge of Photoshop. Yeah, we're going to do this in Photoshop. Why Photoshop? Well, for one, when I made mine, Photoshop was basically all that I used. And two, it's very easy to do and can yield some great results with little effort. So like I said, if you know a little bit of Photoshop, you shouldn't have any problem following along in this video. So to start with anything that we're doing with any design, we need to find something that kind of inspires us or have a good idea. So for mine, I was actually inspired by a background image I saw when I was checking out Razer's new Chroma keyboards. I really liked the dark background that had a sort of wave of colors coming through every once in a while. And I didn't want to recreate it exactly, but I came up with something that I felt worked well for my channel. So there's two main components that I use for my animated background. The first is going to be the main design image, and then the second is going to be our pre-existing looping video. Now we're going to cover both of these, but to start, let's talk about my main design image. While this design might look a little bit complicated, it was actually quite easy to create. And this was due to some amazing free resources that I found on Deviant Art. The first was a set of tech brushes by Z-Design, and then the second was another set of tech brushes by Jero. So there's a lot of great resources out there on sites like DeviantArt. Just make sure to double check to see what sort of usage the creator allows. In the case of both of the ones that I use, the designers simply ask for credit to be given. And this is really the least we can do to thank them for stuff like this. Anyways, after I downloaded these brushes and brought them into Photoshop, I just took some time to make a nice black and white design. It took me a bit to get exactly what I wanted, but in the end, I was really happy with the results, and I think it tied together well with what I needed to add next. And this is going to be an already made looping video. As with most things and most files or other resources that I use, I wanted to make sure I found a video that was available for use with any sort of project. Fortunately, I stumbled upon movietools.info, a resource of free to use looping video clips, which was just perfect. So I went through most of them and I finally decided on this video clip. Now, what we need to do is put them all together, so let's get started on that. First, let's open the looping video file directly in Photoshop. Once it's loaded in, let's go ahead and resize it. We can do this by going to Image, then Image Size. Here, I'm going to type 1920 for the width, and then click this chain link since I don't want to constrain the aspect ratio, and set the height to 1080. You'll be prompted with the question about converting the video layer to a smart object, so just hit OK. And then I'm going to quickly move to the actual video layer and get this out of the video group. Then I'm going to delete the group layer because we just really don't need it. After that, I'm just going to rename this layer, and keep in mind it's just a good habit to rename your layers, that way you don't really get confused with them later on. Before we forget, let's go ahead and make sure the timeline window is open, and to do that we can just go to Window Timeline, or there's a little tab at the bottom that says Timeline that you should be able to double click to show. Now we'll see, since we opened up the looping video file first, that it's going to cover the full length of this timeline. And when we add in new layers, we want to make sure we go ahead and extend them to cover the full length of the timeline as well. This will make sense in a little bit. So anyways, here's where the cool part starts. What I want to do is actually move my main design image under the looping video layer. So when I bring that in, I'm just going to go ahead and move that down. Next, I'm going to change the blend mode of the looping video layer to soft light. Now, when we hit play, we can see that we've already made a nice effect and it looks pretty cool. But as I said, I wanted a bit more colors other than just orange in my animated background. So to fix that, or to add to this, I created a new layer above everything else. I filled it with basically any color, and I use Alt Backspace to fill in. And then I went into the layer style properties. From here, I just checked gradient overlay in the options, and for the gradient, I selected the already preloaded rainbow gradient. I set the angle to -60 degrees. After I had those settings entered in, I hit OK for everything, and I moved the rainbow layer to the very bottom. I'm going to actually hide the looping video for a second so we can see what happens next. So I set the main design image layer to blend mode of multiply. And as you can see, we got a cool rainbow effect coming through my design, which I ended up really liking. Now we can unhide the looping video. For me, it was a bit too bright, so I decided to make another layer on top of everything, fill it with black, and then set the opacity to 50%. Just a nice quick fix. Now, after all was said and done, make sure to go down to the timeline, as I said before, and ensure that all layers are shown throughout the entirety of the clip. This is really easy to do. You just make sure that all the purple bars that represent when each of the layer is active on the timeline are stretched to the full duration. If not, the layers won't show up in certain parts of the clip. Now we can just use this to scrub back to the beginning of the clip if needed and hit play. So we can make any adjustments to each layer if needed, and I believe I play around with the opacity a bit of some of them. And once you're set, exporting the video is actually really easy. We just need to go to File, Export, Render Video, and then at the top enter in a name, and then double check that you're using the Adobe Media Encoder, the preset of high quality, and that the document size matches the size desired. In my case, this was 1920 by 1080. Click render. Okay, so in this video, I went ahead and showed you guys the exact steps that I use to make my animated background. And again, I want to stress that it isn't just a step-by-step process. I wanted to give you some tips for using Photoshop to make great looking videos very quickly. I'm going to show some other videos that I made for a friend, and they came out really well and they took no time. I added in things like text, and I used layer mask to kind of hide parts of the image and show some of the animated looping video underneath. And it's really simple to do. So all in all, I think for my video, it actually took me only 10 to 15 minutes from start to finish. And that includes making the main design image as well. So as always, please let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions about this video or suggestions for another episode of Stream Tips. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more from Nerd or Die. Thanks for watching.